Hello and welcome to All Stats Aren't We, a podcast in which Leeds fans cast their combined eye over goings on at Ellen Road, giving scrutiny to the underlying statistics and tactical footings at work at Leeds United. I'm Tom Hosty and I'm joined today by the one, the only, Martin Riley. Martin, how are you? Long time no see.
Yeah, long time. I'm doing good, thank you, Hosty. It's been a busy day, so I've not had a chance to eat anything special, just some frozen pizza and some garlic bread. Filled a hole, and I'm all good. How about you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. Just been to the gym and then I got back and quickly made something myself. I potentially rushed it a little bit too much and may have eaten undercooked chicken. We will see if I'm in work for the rest of the week. I just had chicken and rice with a little bit of like Nando's, like a garlic chicken sort of thing. So yeah, we'll leave it at that because I don't think I want to go into any more detail about potential undercooked chicken. But we know Jack Harrison wouldn't stand for it. Let's put it that way.
Definitely wouldn't know.
Yeah. So yes, welcome to this preview of the Crystal Palace game. Don't forget that we are on YouTube, so if you want to go watch me and Martin discuss this, you can if you head over to the All Stats Aren't We YouTube channel, and don't forget to like and subscribe. The pods are going up on there. I'm editing this one after this game. I've said it after we've recorded, so I've said it now, so I have to do it. And obviously if you are on Spotify, give us a like as well and subscribe on there. And if you do want extra stuff from us, head over to patreon.com/ASAW Patreon and you can get bonus content there. Is there any news, Martin? I don't think there is.
Not off the top of my head. Obviously, we, as usual, recording before the press conference, so if there's any new injury problems, we don't know about it. But hopefully everyone is still fine and it's still the same players who we have to select from. I think the only injury news that I know about is some from Palace, which I've put on the running order. So yeah, nothing for us though.
Yeah, we'll get into that. And we're also recording on the Wednesday night, which is prior to Palace playing in the Conference League, which we'll get into why that's important a little later on. But yeah, let's get started. So we're going to walk you through Oliver Glasner's Crystal Palace. We don't have an opposition fan, so it will just be me and Martin. We will do the best that we can. So Palace won the FA Cup last year, but didn't get Europa League. Had to settle for Conference League due to some multi-club shenanigans stuff with Lyon. The current manager, Oliver Glasner's, took over the legendary Roy Hodgson. I'll agree with that one.
Give him his dues.
It was Roy Hodgson's second spell, took over from Roy Hodgson's second spell as well in February 2024, finishing well in that season and then improving the year after, obviously, with the FA Cup win and achieving a mid-table finish. Martin, do you want to take us through the transfer activity?
Yes. So they had a pretty big outgoing this summer. Player who I think most fans of Championship football and Premier League football will be very familiar with, Eberechi Chieze, who left to go to Arsenal for just short of 70 million euros, which is a massive fee. I think probably the biggest fee that Palace have received. I haven't looked that up, but I think
Elise was around 50 to 60. So yeah, I think you're probably right. I'll look it up now. I'll double check.
Good job.
But yeah,
so they sold him for, like I said, nearly 70 million euros, and it looks like the replacement for him was Yeremy Pino from Villarreal, who they put out 30 million for. Well, I don't think they was ever likely to spend a similar amount, because players of that kind of value generally wouldn't come to a club of Palace's stature. So Pino is still a very, very, very talented player. Similar profile, I think, as well to as a likes to dribble, likes to create, that kind of thing. In terms of other signings that they brought in JD Canvo from Toulouse for 23 million, and he's a young prospect who I don't think he's played loads of games so far, but
he hasn't played many.
Yeah, and said that they play a back three. That's quite surprising, really, because there should be more opportunities for us at centre back to get game time there. Excuse me. They brought in Borna Sosa from Ajax for 2 million. A Walter Benitez from PSV, goalkeeper, on a free transfer, and Cristantos Uche from Getafe on loan, who's a player I think There were some Leeds fans who wanted us to sign him, and think we were maybe linked with him at one point as well, if I recall correctly. So yeah, they've brought in a few good players, but I do think that the Palace fans were probably expecting a bit more from their summer incoming, especially with the amount of money brought in from Eze. Then in terms of other players leaving, Odsonne Edouard left to join Lens for 3.7 million. Malcolm Ibuye went to Blackpool, 1 million. Rob Holding left on a free transfer. Jeff Slough left on a free transfer. And nothing else really of note there that's important to their first team.
Who was obviously very loved by a certain member of the pod, but he is now in Turkey. Not the pod member, the player. Cesarin Raksaki is. It was Adam who was a big fan of Raksaki.
We could send Adam to Turkey, though, if we wanted to.
He doesn't... I'd like to, but what we're giving him, new teeth or a new hairline, I feel like he's got good both. I hate to give his props. Maybe we give him a BBL.
Yeah, that'd work.
Yeah, there we go. Right, we're sending 100%. Adam to Turkey on the Patreon money, so if you want to see that, that's what we're going to use to fund it. Just for clarity, Elise left for 55 million euros, so yeah, a little bit under that. And I just double checked with regards to Cambo. He's basically been on the bench all season, played 190, which was against Brighton. So yeah, like you said, they've not really had much performance, because I don't think Borna Sousa's really played much either. Otto Benitez has been the backup goalkeeper to Dean Henderson, and Christian Uche, or Christiantus Uche, has only really performed in the Conference League. I don't think he's... And I think there's been even some talks of that he's really not settled well within the squad, and potentially something will have to give. So yeah, Yeremy Pino's really the only one that's kicked on from the signings, but they've done pretty all right. But before we get into the fact that they've done pretty all right, let's talk about how they play first before we talk about how the style of play is performing. So Martin, how would you say they set up in possession?
So there are a number of parallels to the overall playing style as what we have been recently looking to employ with the new look, more direct style that we've been going for. They play a 3-4-3. So most of the width comes from their wing backs, and the three up front is generally stick quite close to each other. You've got the focal point in Mateta, and you've got players like Pino and Nketiah and Sarr, who generally prefer to be a bit narrower. Sometimes they'll go wide, but in general they do prefer to be more narrow, and the width comes from Munoz on the right and Mitchell on the left, with Munoz being a bit more attacking than the other. They play pretty direct. They're the most direct team in the league per the direct speed of their attacks per Ops analyst, which we'll get into some more stats on that later. But let's just settle to say for now that they are very direct in the way they look to play football. They've got that focal point in Mateta up front, who can bring down aerial balls, so they can go long when they need to. They can go in behind as well with the pace that they've got on the flanks. They generally aren't one of the team who are very over eager to keep hold of the ball. That's not something which they've definitely valued, although I would say that Glasner is a pretty adaptable coach and can change things up where he needs to against individual opponents. But I do think that probably most of the adapting so far have been like out of possession shifts, that kind of thing. And largely they've been sticking to probably the sort of football that most teams most fans would expect Palace to play, which is the counter-attacking style, which is what's been working so well for them. But that's about all I can say on them in possession. They're pretty solid in the shape as well. It's just been 3-4-3 for every single game so far this season, so it's pretty well settled at the moment.
Yeah, and they're probably the best 3-4-3 team in the league in attack, and also probably the best direct team in the league. And we'll get onto that within the stats. They've had a lot of success from, if you're an FPL player, you probably had Munoz in your team because he was incredible points-wise. So he was their right wing back, and he's a massive feature of what makes Palace good. And we'll get on to why that's important a bit later on. But yeah, that 3-4-3, as we were just discussing, they're kind of the team that have really got it nailed down of being that 5-3-2 when it needs to be in defence. Yeah, if we were to discuss their out of possession, how does that look, Martin?
So yeah, so that is where they can be adaptable. I think largely it would be a very well drilled mid block, which looks a bit more aggressive at home, and in certain phases and certain game states, I think they obviously will be more aggressive if they do go behind in a game. I watched some of the game against Man City, and at times they were quite aggressive in what they was looking to do there after they went behind. They have also had some moments where they've been looking quite man-to-man-y, although I was just reading some threads on them in preparation for this on some things from some Twitter tacticos, and they were saying it was man-to-man. I wasn't totally convinced because they were saying that it was using their front free man-to-marking to mark the opposition's back three, but they've just got free in the forward line, so it's gonna look like that sometimes. But anyway, some people say that might be the case, but I've not watched enough to say for certain whether that is true. But I think overall, the main thing you want to take home from watching Palace is they are very difficult to break down. They're very well drilled in what they want to do, and Glasnow's definitely got them going in the right direction. They've got some of the best numbers in terms of the underlines in the league, and they look good value for where they are in the league, and they are quite high up there at the moment, 5th or 4th, I think, off the top of my head.
I think they're kind of, wherever they are, they're exactly where the XG numbers kind of say they should be as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so the out possessions of it is generally a front three that they'll press with, and they look to push the wing backs forward as well. Sometimes if they do want to be more aggressive with that, sometimes one of the midfielders will join in if they need it. But largely they'll be quite solid in the structure, good spaces in between the back three, not too far apart in the lines between the three centre backs as well, which is something which is very important for back three setups, which is something which I think Manchester United have got wrong a lot this season. I've seen a lot of fans saying that the gaps between their centre backs is quite huge, but I think Palace have got that right, and yeah, they're doing what Ruben Amorim wants to do, but much more successfully with
much better. Yeah,
with probably they do have some talent in this side. To say he's got them the level of the overall club.
It's not a plethora of talent.
No, it's certainly not. It's quite. There's not a lot of depth in there either as well. So he's working wonders with what he's got here. Is Glasner. I can certainly understand why he has rejected a number of contract offers from Palace, and he's wanting something a bit further up the food chain, so to speak.
Yeah, and would you say that? I'm just thinking hypothetically on this, not hypothetically, but I'm thinking on the spot of that man-to-man kind of thing that they were discussing, that you said the tacticals were kind of discussing. Would you say it's more of a soft press, hear me out on this, a soft press to try and force the keeper to go long, or try and force them to go long, just not a proper man-to-man, but kind of just cut off a passing lane, making sure there's less options, let the ball go long and let someone like Gay and other defenders win the ball, and then they can just go direct as well. Would you say that that's maybe what it more looked like?
Yeah, I would 100% say that. It's just more seems to be a tool for them to funnel the ball into certain areas rather than it being a full man-to-man press. Obviously, Leeds fans are very familiar with what man-to-man looks like. Seeing it firsthand from the master of man-to-man marking. And yeah, so we're pretty good at spotting it when it comes up. Although they did say it was a hybrid man-to-man approach, so which is quite common these days. It was.
That's usually leaving a man open, right? That's usually that rather than
exactly
as you'd call it.
I'd say if I had to put judge it, it'd probably be more like 75% zonal with like a 25% man-to-man just thrown on there in certain scenarios, which I think a lot of teams can sometimes do that in certain periods if they've got players that need to keep a specific eye on, that kind of thing. Yeah, it is still an interesting approach, something that we'll have to keep an eye on, because I think he can make tweaks here and there.
Yeah, I can't remember which game it was that I watched on Match of the Day a few weeks ago, and there was a lot of talk of the ability of the midfielders, of the timing of when they jump in the press, and that they're really well drilled to know the right time to do that. And I think that's a key thing, right? That's getting that low block correct, making sure it's steady, and then having the discipline to time that right of when to jump. And that's what Crystal Palace are really good at. You know, they don't let that extra pass. They don't jump too early and leave space and make that mistake. They've got that bit down quite well. What was the other thing I was going to say? I can't quite remember. That was it. It was that kind of funneling does worry me because I think that's what happened. I haven't managed to listen to the review yet, but so I don't know if you guys will have touched on it, but I know that I mentioned it in the admin chat with regards to Perry's kicking in the first half. I I was under the impression that Thiago's kind of arcing of his press towards Perry was what caused him to go left, and that's kind of where Perry's weak at kicking towards. And getting it right was kicking him across himself. And yeah, I think that Palace could be very good at doing that to us.
You were 100% correct on that, by the way. After your comment in the group chat, I did look out for that in particular, and he was either forcing him to go to the left channel or forcing him to use his weaker foot. Quite often was Thiago. So yeah, we could well see something similar from Palace doing that. I could well see Mateta doing the similar kind of thing and forcing us to go down the channel that we don't want to, which could mean it could be beneficial for us to switch the sides where the two strikers are. We may prefer to have Okafor on the left channel because that's where he does his best work in dribbling, but they can switch over, right? You can have Calvert-Lewin up on the left channel when we're looking to go long, and then they can move around each other, and Okafor can still make runs to the left even if he is nominally on the right. So yeah, there's ways and means around it, but it is definitely something which I think I could see happening.
Yep. So we'll discuss other ways of potentially alleviating that problem as well later on when we get onto the Leeds half. But let's talk about Crystal Palace's recent form. So in the last 5 games, they've won 3 and lost 2. And all those 3 wins came away from home, and all those losses came at home. And obviously we are at Ellen Road this weekend. One of those games came on a Sunday. It's worth noting those 2 defeats at home came after a Conference League game, and the two of the wins were against Wolves and Burnley. So you're expecting them to win those games no matter what day they're on. But yeah, how do you think that? What sort of stead do you reckon that puts us in for Saturday?
It does definitely help. Because they've only got a 2-day turnaround from playing on Thursday to us. It is on Saturday, right, that we're playing them? I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, we play them Saturday night at 8 p.m. I'm still confused as to... I think it's because we were picked for Saturday already for TV, and then they made... I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure it was picked for Saturday for TV, and then they made the quarterfinals of the Carabao Cup, which are actually being played like tonight and last night, but they're playing theirs on the 23rd, so they're playing theirs on Wednesday night. So I don't actually understand why it mattered that they played on Saturday. Surely we could have played them on Sunday still, and then they'd still play on Wednesday.
You would have thought so. That would have made more sense, but
yeah,
Sky.
So I feel like there was some. I feel like there was some TV reason that we had them on Saturday already, or something.
Yeah. Most likely it. Who knows with Sky how they determine things like that. It's certainly not with the best interests of the teams in mind. It's all about viewing projections and all that good stuff. Good stuff, I say. So like you said, their recent form has been a bit up and down, but like you said, the two sides that have lost against Manchester United and lost against Manchester City. So it's not like they were losing against. I know Manchester United haven't been great at times, but they are still pretty high up in the table, all things considered. So it's not a weak side to lose against. But I think they built a lot of their good form in the early part of the season. In the opening 3, 4, 5, 6 games, they were unbeaten. Yeah, winning against Villa, West Ham and Liverpool in that time. Draw against Sunderland, draw against Forest, draw against Chelsea. So there's some strong sides in there, and they put up a good run of form there. Some other good wins that they've had. They beat Brentford 2-0 at home. The one which I watched a lot was the game against Bournemouth. 4.4 XG they put up against Bournemouth. That was incredible.
Was there penalties in that game?
I think there was one. That just one, but they Dean Henderson, not Dean Henderson, sorry, that's their goalkeeper, Petrovic, is it?
Petrovic, yeah.
Yeah, he had a really good game and pulled off a lot of pretty good saves, and also there was some poor finishing on display from Palace as well on top of that, but it ended 3-3, which was quite interesting. They had more than double the XG of Bournemouth, but 2, so yeah, really fun game to watch was that one. But yeah, they've definitely been inconsistent, but with more wins than anything recently. That's 4 wins in the last 7 games, so they're still in pretty decent form.
Yeah. It's just those Sunday games, right? Like, you look at all the games that they've lost this season have been on a Sunday, which has been post Conference League. And like I said, they are playing tomorrow night as we record on Wednesday. So that bodes well for us. Do you think, given that, they will do anything different to how they normally play against Leeds, apart from when we get onto the squad, because that's a whole different kettle of fish?
Yeah, exactly. So depending on what players are used in the midweek European fixture, we could well see them being maybe a little bit more passive, because maybe the energy levels might not be as high, but would be normally. This is at Elland Road, right? I believe.
Yeah.
Yes. So and it's away from home as well, so they're most likely not going to be as aggressive as they would be at home in phases. So, but I wouldn't expect their style to change massively against us. They will still look to be quite direct, probably won't engage with our press when we do look to press more aggressively, and will look to go longer more often, and they may have more luck in doing that than Brentford had at the weekend. I think when they started going longer in the second half, when we were forcing that, we were able to deal with the aerial threat of Thiago much better, and I think Mateta will cause more problems in that, because he's a big unit. Definitely is a big unit. One of the few in the league who probably rivals Calvert-Lewin in terms of strikers who can win aerial battles.
And being able to use that physicality that they've got,
that too.
Right?
Yeah. And he's not slow either. He's got a decent amount of pace and physicality to his game overall, good stamina levels as well, can keep running most of the game. So he's going to be a real problem for us, and I may as well move into the next question, because the first thing I've got on the player section.
You beat me to it.
So yeah, the first thing that I've noted when I was looking over their players was Jean-Philippe Mateta has the second most XG in the league of any player, only behind the one and only Erling Haaland. So yeah, that in itself is a pretty terrifying prospect, to come up against a striker who's notching that much XG, and he is getting through a lot. He hasn't quite matched that XG though, which is quite interesting, but I always prefer a striker who puts up a lot of XG, even if he is underperforming, but that's just the Patrick Bamford standing me, to be honest. But yeah,
I think that's a good way of judging. I think being able to get into the positions of goal scoring is the part that's elite more than it is for finishing as much. That's my take as well. I think that, like, getting into those positions takes a lot of skill and nous.
100%. So yeah, he's got 10.1 XG so far in 16 games. Got 7 goals from that. So he is about 3 goals behind his XG, but he's still definitely going to be the biggest threat that we have to deal with here, from both open play and from set pieces, because of his height. So he's going to be the big one. And in terms of creativity, they are going to be without Ismail Assar, which is a very good thing for us, because he's their big dribbly boy. Neo has some dribbleness to his game, but I think he's better at passing than he is at carrying and dribbling. But yeah, Pino will be one of the main creative threats, but they do get a lot from their wing backs as well in that case. Unfortunately, again for us, their best wing back and the most attacking one, Daniel Munoz, is also out. He's injured. Ismail Assar is at AFCON, and Daichi Kamada as well is also injured. He's I think that was yesterday that they determined that on the press conference before the European game. So yeah, they're without a few players who have played a lot of minutes for them this season. Sarah's started 12 games. Pino not Pino, sorry, he's playing 14 for Munoz and 14 for Kamada. So definite first team players who aren't going to be playing this one for us. That's three of those out. And they don't have the deepest of squads, like I said before. So it's quite surprising, really, that they haven't actually used more players. I was looking at earlier that they are in the bottom quarter for teams who have used most amount of players. I think they've only used 21 players, I believe, off the top of my head, and that was quite low, which is actually less players than we've used. And we know how reliant Daniel Farker is on his first team players. Oh yeah,
Well, yeah.
So that it's say that they have used less players than us is pretty something, and that does speak to the depth that they don't have really there. With Munoz being out, they're having to rely on Nathaniel Klein, who is now approaching 35. So definitely
who I don't even think was. I think he was technically released, and then they gave him a new contract as well in the summer because they couldn't get another right back.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like it's their version of Sam Byram, basically. Is that one? So yes, the basically got Sam Byram playing in their right wing back spot, and in midfield they'll be playing another older player, not as old as Klein, but Will Hughes, who is approaching 31. Who I do think is actually still a decent level player for this league.
Yeah, he's still good technically. That's the thing with Hughes, right?
Exactly. And he's got a good set piece threat as well. So he isn't quite as big of a downgrade as what the right wing back spot is. And then the player who will come in for Sarr will most likely be a very familiar name to Leeds players in Eddie Nketiah. He could have played anyway. He has played a decent amount of numbers, but he is more, I think, the backup. He's only started one game, so this could be his second start in this one. Most likely will be. I'm not sure who else they would play. Uche hasn't started a single game yet, so potential that he could get a first start. I'm not sure how well liked he is. Doesn't either he's not very well liked by Glasner, or he's just not settled in very well at all there. And who knows with that one? But yeah, they definitely do have a quality pens. That's even not talking about Mark Gahey, who was going to be moving to Liverpool and then didn't move to Liverpool. And yeah, he's probably one of the best centre backs in the league. Is Gahey, and part of the England setup now. So yeah, they've got a lot of quality in these. And another one I haven't mentioned, another England player is Adam Wharton. So yeah, they've got so much talent in this squad that it's definitely, even with the players out, they're still going to have a lot of players for us to be worried about causing us problems.
Yeah, I wonder if we see a second start for Justin Devaney, who is an attacking midfielder, sort of youngster from Northern Ireland, potentially instead of Nketiah on the right wing. And I think they've got another forward called Romain Esse, who is also kind of getting a few minutes.
Was he at Millwall? Am I thinking of a different Esse?
I think it is that Esse. I'll double check.
It is that one really...
who was.
Yeah. I remember him. He was all right in Championship. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he signed during January last year, and then only played like a little bit. Got a goal. Played 1.5 90s, and he's only played 0.3 90s so far this year. But as we said, I'm unsure that. So basically, what Glasner has said, if you've missed it, is that's the listeners, not you, Martin. I know that you haven't. If you've missed it, is that it will be a different starting 11 on Thursday than it is on Saturday, which obviously isn't new, but what he means is it's going to be a completely different starting 11. No player will start both games. Now, whether that means he goes with a completely junior side in the Conference League against Cups, again, a Finnish side, maybe you think he can. They need to win to stay in the Conference League. And I think if Glasner's wanting to see out his contract at Palace and get somewhere higher up, he would like to have another European trophy into his title to give him a bit more stock as well. So I've got a feeling that that's going to be quite a strong team, but how strong it is, we don't know. I've got a feeling it's going to be a 6-5 sort of split. I think, Martin, you're thinking at worst it'll be an 8-3 split maybe of youngsters to senior players. But again, it then also depends on who those senior players are going to be. My imagination is that Klein will probably start our game rather than the Finland game. But again, Justin Devaney has played right wing back in some of those games that he's played this season. That young Northern Irish guy, so he could start right wing back for them in Finland, for example. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. Makes our job very hard the day before they play Thursday. But yeah, it's going to be we're playing them at the right time because, as we've said, they're pretty poor. That said, though, they're pretty poor post Conference League games, but they are changing the whole 11, so maybe that doesn't affect as much this time. So yeah, this preview's really worthless. Stop listening now. Don't, please. Martin, talk to me about, we've kind of discussed some of the stats. I've mentioned the fact that I think they're roughly around about the same place in. They're one of the only teams that are exactly where they should be given their XG. And yeah, there is some really good stuff that stands out here, and some stuff which kind of makes you shudder a little.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, especially given our lack of creativity. So yeah, do you want to take us into that, Martin?
Yeah, so we'll go for the attacking stuff first. So in terms of the total XG, they've got the fifth highest in the league, 26.5 XG created, 20 goals scored. So they are underperforming that by a good 6-goal margin overall. Then for non-penalty XG, sixth most, 24.15, 17 goals scored from that. So a 7-goal underperformance when it comes to non-penalty XG. Set piece XG, second highest in the league, only behind Arsenal XG, 7 goals scored. So they're pretty much meeting their XG. So it seems to me that their overperformance is mainly coming from open play. And I did the manual calculations because for some reason Optus Analyst doesn't tell you the open play XG. Why it doesn't? It gives you an XG, it gives you non-penalty XG, it gives you set piece XG. What it doesn't tell you is what is just from open play. Like, why wouldn't that be?
You should just know. There? You should just be able to work it out.
Well, I have worked it out, fortunately enough, for our listeners. Yeah, so a large chunk of the XG is from set pieces. So they've put up 16.39 that wasn't set piece XG or penalty XG, and only scored 10 goals from that. So the underperformance is coming from open play from them. So, but still, they're a massive threat from set pieces. Fortunately, we are relatively strong at defending set pieces, I'd say. We're pretty strong in that respect, so it's going to be a good battle. And then some more interesting stuff in the XG against. So the XG against, once again, overall XG against, fourth best in the league, 18.63 XG against, conceded 15 goals. So a 3-goal overperformance from Dean Henderson. He's played every minute for them. Looks like he's to be having a good season. Non-penalty XG against, fourth best again, 17.05, conceded 13 goals from that. 4-goal performance there. And then the set piece XG against, this is the interesting one. So the other two would have best. This one is the 7th worst. So 6.6 XG against, 5 goals conceded, 1 goal of performance from them there. So there's a few ways of looking at this. Is for one, that they are so strong at defending in open play because they're really good. So that naturally they are giving up more set pieces. It didn't say how many set pieces have had. It could be an accumulation of lots of small value chances. But either way, that is a lot of set piece XG. And the goals conceded is a little bit lower than what the XG is. So 1 goal of performance from Henderson there. But then the final one on the XG against was the open play XG against. So 10.45 they got from that, conceded 8 goals and the 2-goal of performance. Yeah, some interesting stuff going on there. Then something I mentioned earlier about their general style, that they're the most direct side in the league in terms of their direct speed. Helpfully, Optus Analyst doesn't tell you what this means, but it's 2.16, whatever that means.
Whatever 2.16 is. We've had this discussion before, haven't we, on like, what does this mean?
Like, it probably tells you somewhere. It probably tells you somewhere, but they're the most direct by that. There's no other team that's got a higher direct speed than that. And the passes per sequence, this is a bit more easier to understand. The second lowest amount of average passes per sequence, 3.02. So they don't string too many passes together. They don't mess around, basically. And direct passing, this is one which I've worked out manually.
Get it in the mixer.
Direct passing, 17.59% of their passes played long. Second highest in the league, The first highest in the league, you ask, is the team we've just played, Brentford. So we're playing the two most direct sides in the league, one after another. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if we can cope as well as we did against Brentford, against Palace, who are obviously a much better side at doing this, best side in the league at playing direct. So this is going to be a much different side, even though it is the same style, essentially. And then the final one on the style is 10 plus passing sequences. The joint lowest at 104. So they very, very rarely do.
Who are they joint lowest with? Passes. Can you remember? Brentford again.
yeah. So they're pretty much nearly identical in terms of the numbers on the style. And then the final bit on the stat stuff is pressing data. So they have PPDA, the second least aggressive press in the league, 15 exactly PPDA. High turnovers, the second lowest, 82. Shot ending high turnovers, sixth lowest, 13. And percentage of high turnovers, which ended in the shot, 10th lowest, 15.85.
10th highest.
Oh, yeah. No, it was definitely 10th lowest because it worked out at like 14th highest. Yeah, if that makes sense. But yeah, 10th lowest.
No, because there's only 20 teams.
I have in my head 24 teams because I'm still championship build. So it is 10th highest, 10th lowest, whichever way you want to look at it. But yeah, so they don't do.
Or were they 14th? Or were they 14th and they were actually 6th lowest? Who knows?
They were definitely 10th lowest. I'm just being a moron, which isn't a new development.
But on that, I would say that still means that they're probably. It would be good if we could have worked out there how effective they were in, and it should have been something which, if I'd looked a little bit earlier and thought about it more, I could have. Because there's a counter-attacking team, and they're very direct, they're obviously not going to have many high turnovers. You've just said that 82 lowest, which means by a byproduct of that, they won't have as many shot-ending high turnovers. Now, they don't have the second lowest shot-ending high turnovers, they have the sixth lowest, so there's somewhere from them having very low high turnovers that they increase, obviously, within that as well. So then, middle of the park, what we want to work out there is how many, 15% of high turnovers ending in a shot. So how many of those shots then ending a goal as well of a percentage? So we can work. If you can, and then you can kind of actually see what their full efficiency is. 15% of their high turnovers turning shots, which is middling. So slightly surprising maybe for a direct team that they're not a bit more efficient in getting a shot off. But only one goal as well.
One goal from high turnovers.
Shots. From 13 shots. So,
but bear in mind that
that's actually quite a decent turnaround, it feels like.
Yeah, compared to ours it is. We've had 22 shot-ending high turnovers and only one goal as well. In fact,
I imagine that we're quite high up in high turnovers as well, numbers-wise.
We do pretty good at turning high turnovers into shots, at least we were earlier in the season. We've got 112 in total high turnovers, and 22 of those ended in shots.
So that's essentially one in...
It's 19% of our high turnovers ending in shots.
Yeah, so we perform 4% better than them, and also have 30 more high turnovers, but are only able to generate 9+ more shots, despite having 40% more high turnovers than what they have compared to them. So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to get at, that there's still, the numbers might not tell the full story within that.
No, definitely not.
But it just shows how good they are at doing what they do, to have given up so little XG, but being basically one of the least aggressive teams. And they give up very little in open play. Is there anything else, Martin, that you want to add on Crystal Palace before we move on to the Leeds part of the pod?
I don't believe so. I think we've covered quite a lot there. I'm all good to move on.
So am I. Sorry to interrupt, just a quick one. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe to help us keep the content coming. And if you want even more, you can support us over on patreon.com/ASAW Patreon. You'll get bonus podcasts, exclusive articles, and access to our Discord community, all while helping us make more of the content you love. Thanks. Now let's get back to it. So then, the Leeds part of the pod. Welcome back. We'll get pretty quick into it. We've already mentioned we haven't actually, we're recording before the press conference. But what do we think the lineup's going to look like? Do we think it's going to change much? Is there any reason for it to change?
I don't think so. I think it's most likely to be the exact same lineup, barring any injuries that may have cropped up. Don't think anyone came off injured against Brentford. Don't believe they did.
Don't think so, no.
No, and I don't think there's anyone who really took any nasty knocks. I think Stack took one at one point, but he was able to get up and play on. Potentially that could cause a problem, but that's just me speculating. He's a big lad, he's Stack. He can generally cope with knocks. He played through a bloody broken rib or whatever it was for long enough, so yeah.
He still is.
Yeah,
in some way.
Is, yes. Yeah. But yeah, I do think the lineup is most likely to be very much the same as where it was. Trying to think of any players who could come in. I don't think there is anyone who could start. Maybe Nyonto, outside chance. But no, I think it'll be Okafor and Calvert-Lewin who start here. I think the next change we could maybe see is when Lucas Metra is back, that he could come in instead of Okafor. I think that's the preferred two when we are playing the 3-5-2 from the start. But yeah, I think it'll be exactly the same lineup and same formation again, 3-5-2 again.
Part of me thinks he goes 4-3-3 and tries to go back possession, given how much Palace will cede possession.
Potentially, yeah.
But he's also very much I'm not going to change a winning side coach or a side that's performing. It's very difficult.
It's two opposing ideas which Farke has. He very much likes to keep the teams the same when they're doing well, but he also likes to have possession, so he can't match up both of those things. So yeah, I thought that he was going to go back to a 4-3-3 against Brentford, and he surprised me with that. I do think he is liking the 3-5-2, and I think he likes the balance that it gives us with how solid we seem to be in that, as opposed to the back four has been recently. So I think he sees the 3-5-2 at the moment as his starting formation, and when he needs to go for a goal, the 4-3-3 is the new 3-1 effort.
Which is better.
Yes.
Right? As in the 4-3-3, going 4-3-3 is much better than doing that. I wondered when you mentioned potentially letting Okafor go right side, even though doesn't like it, and have Calvert-Lewin go on the left side after when we were discussing the funneling of Perry a bit earlier. I wonder if that's cause for... now, I know that it's not, but is that sort of like... Does Perrault come into the equation of being the partner for Calvert-Lewin from kickoff, so that he operates on the inside channels in the half space on the right-hand side with his left foot? Adds a little bit more of creativity if we do have possession quite a bit. He is a bit more creative on the ball than Aronson and Okafor, I feel. But he obviously then there's a lot of other stuff that you lose by having Perrault as well. Physicality, athleticism.
I'd be surprised if Perrault started. It just seemed to me like he didn't even get in off the bench against Brentford when we were chasing the game. So it just seemed that Farke has determined that he's just not what we need. So I will be surprised. And I also wouldn't like to see it personally. I think Perrault
I prefer Nyonto, obviously, but
Nyonto would be a good thing to see.
It does look like Farke's starting to obviously go Nyonto over Perrault, quite obviously, and I think he's been very influential in this past few games. Now, whether that means that actually in the past 3 months he did have he just had a really niggly injury that just wasn't budging.
Yeah, I
'cause
think that does seem to be where it was. Yeah,
yeah, because we speculated that maybe he'd fallen out of favour. I think a lot of fans were speculating that he'd fallen out of favour with Farker, or Farker had fallen out of love with him, and everyone was kind of expecting him to go in January because he wasn't getting in the team. But it does actually look like that was probably for the best, because now he's performing quite well and he's brought him back into the squad in a good way. So with that, you're not thinking that the lineup's going to change. Do you therefore think that we're going to try go direct still? Do you think that there's going to be any change in or out of possession?
I think it will probably be similar to what we saw against Brentford, which wasn't an overcommitment to either one of the approaches. We did average around 17% of our passes played long, which is similar to what Palace do across the season. Their average. We are in that game. We went as direct as one of the most direct teams in the league. So if we kept up that sort of average, we would slowly get there. But there were also passages of time where we were more slower with our approach, and we're looking to create through consolidated possession rather than yeasting it to DCL every time, even though that is effective. And I like it this way. I don't like to see us to be too predictable, and that is it's actually exactly what I wanted from the Brentford game in the preview, was for us to mix up our approach and not be stuck to wedded to one particular way of doing things. Yeah, the getting it long to Calvert-Lewin does work, but we're also a team that for the past few years has built up an identity of playing a possession-based structure, and I don't think we should totally abandon that, because it's just better to have more strings to your bow, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I think the kind of the remit of it is use Calvert-Lewin to get the ball up the pitch, and then or we can use Goodmanson, who can carry down the left. We can play it a little bit, and we can find Bogle, who has good connections with the players inside and good timing of his runs of 1-2s and stuff like that. And then we get it upfield and get it in from there. And I think they're the three kind of ways that we're looking at now. And yeah, I think if we're going to stick with the 3-5-2, then there's no point changing from that right now. However, it does bring me on to the next one of who of our players is going to cause Palace problems, because part of me thinks Calvert-Lewin won't exactly cause problems, but I think he might facilitate someone else to cause problems. Does that make sense? I feel like it'll look like Calvert-Lewin's having a bad game, but on a rewatch, it'll actually be that he might have had a good game because of how he's put his body about. What's your opinion?
No, I agree with what you're saying there. With the way that we would look to go to Calvert-Lewin, he'll occupy players. Maybe two of their centre-backs will have to be keeps an eye on him at all times, just to make sure he's not in too much space. I think as to players who I think of Palace which may struggle, I can't look beyond Goodmanson against Nathaniel Klein. I really can't. Has the beating of most players that he's been coming across recently. Even late in games, the engine that he's got and the pace that he shows, even late in games to burst past players, he's such a massive asset. And yeah, that's the battle for me, which I think could be quite fruitful for us. Similar for Okafor on that side as well. If he can get 1v1 against Klein, that could be also a good matchup for us. On the other side, Mitchell is a bit of a tougher nut to crack. He's very defensively sound and very solid. Got a good amount of recovery pace in his engine as well, and decent amount of strength. He's a physical player basically. So, but Bogle is also very good. So that'll be a good battle to see who comes out on top of that side. And yeah, whichever one of Palace's centre backs is marking Calvert-Lewin, well, he'll cause some problems both aerially and with his movements in the box, as we saw against Brentford. That leap that he made for the goal was majestic, and yeah, he can score goals from those sort of whipped in balls all day long, if he's even given a little bit of space to do it. So yeah, there's a few good matchups here for us, but then on the other side of things, players who could struggle here. I think the main player I'm looking at, who will be probably their most creative outlet in this one, will be Jeremy Pino. I do think that Ampadu is going to have a big game here to keep track of him, making sure he's not drifting into too much space or looking to crash the box. He does have a decent shot on him as well, so we'll have to keep track of the runners getting in and around the box, and whoever is tasked with marking Jean-Philippe Mateta, because he's going to have to be handed off between each of them at times, because he does move around quite a lot. He's quite mobile, and he doesn't just stick to the middle of the pitch. That is where he does a lot of his damage. But you quite often see him move into the left channel, opening space in the middle, and then getting crosses put across to the back post for him from the right channel. So there's lots of ways that Palace can hurt you with a player like his quality.
I think that's going to be a case of the communication of that back three.
100%.
Passing him on correctly. And we've had someone in the Discord today kind of asking, and you were saying, I wish you'd asked this before the Brentford game, around about Biol's positioning within the defensive line, looking like it's a little bit deeper now in a back three. That can be part of his role, because as the middle, usually as the middle defender, you are usually the aggressor or the sweeper. And so if he's been told to be the sweeper for if the ball comes over the top and try and be the first one to come in and have that player, that might be part of why he's starting a yard kind of deeper as well, just on that. But I think that'll also be important for this game. And I think that communication between those back three.
Yeah, 100%. It will be an issue in this one, because Mateta has such good movement around the box. And if Nketiah is playing as well, that's another box player to keep an eye on for making good moves into the box. We know that Eddie is sharp in space, and he's got a good finish on him. So we're gonna have to keep track of him as well as Mateta if he does start in this one. I think I probably am expecting Mateta to start against us. He could probably start in both games. I know Glasner said that he won't start two players in both of these games, but if for example, that he could start Mateta and then bring him off at half time if they're winning, that kind of thing again in the European competition. But we'll see how that plays out. But I do think that's going to be the interesting part of the pitch, is how we're managing players making runs into the box, either through beyond the back line or breaking into the box after the ball's been got to our third and the box crashes, that kind of thing, which has been a pretty constant issue for us at times this season, especially the goal from Jordan Henderson of all players against Brentford, who has never been known as a box crashing midfielder, and somehow he was against us at the prime age of 36, 37, however old he is now.
Like that,
yeah, so that's not ideal. So we need to be keeping a track on younger players in this one.
He might not even be that old. He might. No. I'm trying to think
I think he is.
How much younger than Milner he is. And part of me says that he's still like 5 years younger, but I could be wrong. But yeah, I was thinking, well, that's not an issue, because Crystal Palace don't have any box crashing midfielders that'll be available to play. Maybe Kamada, but that's not really. He's 35.
Wharton likes a shot.
He likes to have a shot. Does he? Yeah, I wouldn't say that he crashes the box.
No, not often, but he can hit him.
Kamada's obviously potentially injured. So
he's injured. 4 to 6 weeks, I believe. He's injured for.
Yeah. I think I agree with everything that you've said there with regards to players that are going to struggle. Potentially, Tanaka struggles with the midfield battle against Wharton and physicality side of things. But he's also every time that I've questioned him and worried about that, he's stood up against it and come out quite well so far, in my opinion. Anyway.
No, I agree. But the good thing about this game is we should have the man advantage in midfield, because they play with just two midfielders, whereas we will have three. So you'd expect Stack and Ampadu to be able to handle the challenge of Wharton and Hughes, when maybe Tanaka can be there for the counter-attack moments more, or be assisting out in wide areas more often.
Yep, agreed. And So how do you see this game of football to look like, and where do you think it's going to be won or lost? I think I have an idea of where you think it's going to be won or lost, but I'll see if I'm right first from here. That yeah, how do you think it's going to look?
So I think managing transitions is going to be the big one for this one. That is how Palace will look to get most of their damage done, is through direct transition attacks, and it's all about us managing that, making sure our rest defence is set. The rest defence is a little bit easier to manage now we're in this back three, so you've always got those three dedicated centre backs who are always there for the rest defence, and then you've got Ampadu, who is generally part of it as well.
And we have like that diamond four, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. So that we should be well set to defend well against transitions, and we have largely been okay at transition defending recently. It's been more goals from settled play, which of course has problems recently. But yeah, I do think that if we can manage the transitional threat from Palace, get our approach to the game right, depending on how the game's playing out, it could end up looking similar to the Brentford game. Maybe we're a bit more passive in the first half, then we increase the pressure in the second half, look to wear them down slowly, that kind of thing. Because I do think Palace will struggle more against a side who looks to set up similar to them in an out of possession shape. So not be too aggressive, at least to start things off. Try to make them work for territory, and because they are without some of their better players, in Munoz not being available, in Kamada not being available, in Sarr not being available, it would work well for us, I think, to not give them too many transitional attacks. And I think the game will look... I'm trying to think how the game will look, because it could end up looking similar to the Brentford game if we do approach it correctly and put the onus on them in having to have the ball mostly. But that is also what Palace, I think, will want us to do as well. They'll want us to have the ball. And because naturally Daniel Farke would just want to have the ball, I'm hoping his baser instincts don't take control in this one, and we do what we did against Brentford, because we set up correctly in that one. But it is also at Elland Road, so we'll have to see how that part plays out, and that could be an interesting facet to whether this game will be won or lost by us. If Farke does say, you know what, I want to try to possess the ball here and not go more direct. I hope that's not the case. I've been proven wrong once already, so I'm hoping you prove me wrong again, Daniel. That'd be fantastic.
Well, you're not going to like what I'm going to say. I think, like, if the game turns into, or the game is played similar to the Brentford game, the game will be won or lost down Palace's with how we deal with the fact that they haven't got Sarr, or how they deal with the fact they haven't got Sarr and they haven't got Munoz, and how we take advantage of that. But there's part of me that thinks we'll go out with the same game plan, but then we're naturally going to have more of the ball. And so the second half's going to turn into, okay, let's keep the ball. And then we're going to concede in the first 15 minutes. But we're going to have made, I feel like there's going to have been like a sub that was made because Farke thinks we can keep the ball against them, and it absolutely messes us up. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that there'll be a bit of a hope from Farke within his eye, and we might see like a first early change forever. Well, since Man City. But that's kind of what I'm expecting, or what I'm thinking might happen. I think that's my doom. I think that's my Leeds United doomsayer within myself, though. But yeah, I think the first goal is important. I'm going to take the Adam Elliott route of saying that the first goal is important.
It is usually important, yeah. I think I also said the first goal was important against Brentford as well. But then we managed to come back and get a point out of it. So
wonderful cross as well. I just want to add that. I know that I wasn't on the review to say it, but fantastic from Willie Gnonto, fantastic jump from Calvert-Lewin.
Yeah, but yeah, beautiful goal. Hang it in the Louvre.
Yeah, the Louvre. Exactly what we want from both those players, right? Exactly what we'll need from them in this game as well, if they both play. Is there anything else, Martin, that you can think of that I've missed?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
I think we missed giving a Patreon plug again. Well, a second Patreon plug. So if you could, can you give us a reminder of the website, please?
Of course, it's patreon.com/ASAW Patreon.
And a reminder that we donate to the Leeds Food Bank, and if you are able to, you can too. Their website is leedsnorthandwest.foodbank.org.uk. Apparently, Adam said that we're going to be really crap with pods at the start of the last one. Like I said, I've not listened because it's Christmas. He's asked for some time. Oh, woe is me. We got a bit of stick in Discord for it. That's the only reason why I'm bringing it up. Apparently, according to the Premier League, they need to have a certain amount of games on the Saturday, so they can't have all the games on Boxing Day this year because they've signed some new rule. So,
it does get hectic in January, though. I will say that.
Yeah, January. I think the start of January is pretty. I think that's kind of where it is.
First against Liverpool, 4th against Man United, 7th against Newcastle. Whew.
And then the 10th
cup game against Derby.
Yeah. And that's been moved to the 11th, hasn't it? That's actually been moved to the 11th.
11th, yeah.
Lunch. Yeah. But so yeah, Christmas we might be all right. New Year might be a bit of a tough squeeze for turnarounds. But I will do a quick reminder for YouTube. So please like and subscribe on there. If you're watching on there now, please do it. If you haven't already, if you're not, go over and just do it so that we get more numbers. But that's all we have for today. All that's left for me to say is thank you, Martin.
Thank you as well, Hosty.
Thank you, dear listeners. We'll be back with a review of this game and a preview of the next game against Sunderland, so I don't have to wish you Feliz Navidad. But I do hope you have a good weekend before Christmas, and if you're off from now, enjoy yourselves, be merry as much as you want to leading up to Christmas. I'm not. I'm working the whole way through. But all laugh at me. Ciao!